Welcome to, well, we skipped How Was Your Day Bombshell because there was nothing very amazing about today. Thank goodness, knock on wood, let it keep it that way. And we're going to move on to a book review and a song for tonight. And then that's it because I'm going to go work out. The book review is going to be very complicated because it was one of the best books that I've read in a long time. A Date with Fortune. Now these special editions have life, love, and family. It's the key to Fortune's heart. With her luscious chocolate truffles, Red Rock's favorite confectioner, Felicity Thomas has won many customers' hearts, but she's never been tempted to give away her own. Until the notorious Michael Fortune saunters into her life. "I've met the man I'm going to marry," she insists that very day. And with Valentine's Day just around the corner, who could blame the innocent beauty for waxing romantic about the sexy Southern tycoon? Tycoon. "Stay away from her," everyone warned Michael, but there's nothing that the COO hates more than being told what to do. Captivated by the small town sweetheart, he pulls out all the stops for romance just for her. Fancy dinners, a limo, a helicopter tour, and a private jet off to the Caribbean, where Michael gets the surprise of his life, and a whirlwind wedding might just deliver Felicity into his waiting arms. Now, let's see what this book entails besides a lot of wonderful moments. Yeah. I'm going to read to you a little bit here inside the page. Okay. "You need to get dressed," he said. "We're getting married." "What?" She backed up. "We are not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are a virgin because you made the conscious decision to wait for marriage, right or wrong?" "Right, but..." "Then we're getting married." He opened his closet door. "You can't just tell me that we're getting married and expect me to obey, Michael Fortune." He aimed a steady, fierce look at her, one that said, "Don't lie to me." "Why did you decide to sleep with me, Felicity?" "Because you're the one," she fired back. "What does that mean?" "I never wanted anyone before you, not enough to actually do it. And then you think it's hard to stay a virgin all these years. It wasn't, but you're different." "How? Tell me exactly how." "Because I'm in love with you." He turned his head away so fast she didn't get to see his reaction. "Then it's settled. Go get ready." Ugh, one of these take charge kind of men. That makes for a great book. Anyway, dear reader, like a kid in the candy store is the perfect description of my hero, Michael Fortune, when he first meets Felicity Thomas. Michael is like a kid in a candy store. Hers. Felicity is the confectioner by trade and sweet confection to the usually cool and controlled Michael. For the Atlanta-born and raised man, the fact that her shop is the quaint little town of Red Rock, Texas, is the best reason to avoid falling in love with her. However, the sweet Felicity tempts big city Michael, who in turn shows Felicity how different life could be for the small town woman. But are the geographical differences an insurmountable barrier? Is love enough to conquer all? I hope you enjoy their journeys to take sweet surrender. By Susan Crosby, the author of A Date with Fortune. Now, let's see here. I was going to say it wasn't too far off that I first had a marking of the page. Michael didn't get it. Romantic love was a myth, and marriage was nothing more than a practical merger made in interest of procreation. No matter how it seemed to start, he determined long ago that what people called love was just lust, and it always faded. Respect was the key word. That sustained a relationship, like his parents. And that was page 8. Like I said, take a deep seat. There's a lot of paper clips. When I love my reading, there's a lot of paper clips. Page 21. Okay. So she has already met Michael, waited on him in the candy store, and he sends her flowers the next day. Anyway, be still my heart. So Carol Ann, the florist, was carrying a vase with a bouquet of red roses. She headed straight to the candy counter. Felicity sighed. Wyatt was so romantic, frequently sending Sarah Jane little gifts. She was a lucky girl, and he was always going to let her know how much she meant to him. But Carol Ann set them on the counter, then winked at Felicity. "Not," Sarah Jane. Someone's been a very good girl, or maybe not. She grinned and then left. Dazed, Felicity plucked the card from its holder, burying her face in the bloom as she did. The heady scent spiraled inside her. It was a pleasure to meet you, Michael Fortune. Oh, this man is so dang good. They don't make men like this in real life. I'm just saying, this is why these romance novels sell. It's because they sell us on the idea that these kind of men exist. Anyway, gonna move on. Page 30. After I itch my nose. Anyway. I guess we got to go back to page 29 to get to 30. Michael lifted his champagne flute, waiting for her to touch glasses. To the lovely confectioner, he said, taking a sip, watching over her rim. He appreciated her enthusiasm, the way she didn't attempt to hide her excitement at the plans he made. He'd been dating too many jaded women. He decided he wasn't jaded himself. He was. And he wasn't a matter of having forgotten what it was like to be with someone who was totally comfortable in her own skin. He hadn't forgotten because he'd rarely been in that position, generally dating women who were opposite of Felicity's personality. It made him relax with her in a way he couldn't remember relaxing before. Oh, goodness, this man is amazing. We move on. Page 35. She was obviously too sweet for the likes of him, and yet he was enjoying her company more than anyone's he had in a very long time. It was rare to come across someone who wasn't cynical or bored. Boredom was a persuasive in his circle, or at least the appearance of boredom, as if showing excitement about anything made you less than cool. He was guilty of it himself. Page 36 and 37? Yep, 36 and 37. What the, Felicity, what's going on? Are you all right? I knew you shouldn't have gone out with him. What did he do? Sarah Jane, I met the man that I'm gonna marry. Yeah, a waiter at the restaurant? The valet? The chef? Felicity laughed. You know who. He's nothing like you said. Nothing like Wyatt told you. He's a good listener and a good, true gentleman. Sarah Jane shook her head. I was afraid of this. Be happy for me, Felicity climbed off the bed, her mood shifting from high that she'd been on. Don't I have the same right to find love of my life? Wyatt wasn't a player, nor was he unyielding, Sarah Jane said quietly. But you made the point. Of course you already had the same right. It's just he lives in Atlanta and I live in Red Rock, Felicity said, finishing the sentence. He's a man of the world and I'm a man of everybody knows your business in town. I'm a virgin. I guess he's not. She smiled at her friend. Stranger things have happened. Sarah Jane hugged her. I'm sorry. You're the big girl. You get to make your own decisions. Thank you. If it goes south, I won't run to you for comfort. You will, and you should. That's what best friends are for. Truth and comfort. They hugged once more and Felicity headed for the door. Did he ask you for a second date? Sarah Jane asked. No. She uttered the word lightly, casually, even though she was worried that he hadn't. Sarah Jane didn't say one word. She didn't have to, but Felicity wasn't going to let anything ruin her perfect evening. Next paperclip. Big old hunk of book. Page 48. She put a hand on Michael's arm and moved out of Jack's hearing. I appreciate the gesture, Michael, I really do. But we're taking my truck. Why? The limo's large enough to haul your supplies, isn't it? That's not the point. She could feel 30-plus pairs of eyes zeroed in on her. She tried to keep her expression neutral because of it. This is a business trip and I need my truck. But I would understand if you decide not to go with me. His silence lasted a beat or two. I thought it would give us more time to get to know each other. Maybe if you'd asked me first. Maybe, but doubtful. I don't need those kind of luxuries, Michael. He obviously was a good poker player because his face never betrayed his feelings. He just stepped around and spoke with Jack, who pulled off a cooler out of the car and passed it to Michael, and then took off. As Felicity walked down to her pretty aqua pickup, its true confections emblazoned on the doors in gold, she spotted Liz, who gave her a thumbs up through the window. Be yourself. Felicity could hear the unspoken words from her strong, independent aunt echoing through her mind. We move on. Page 62. Liz slipped in as Felicity stared at the back door, wondering what had just happened. He had been interesting to her before, but now he became fascinating. There are so many layers to him: the cool executive, the attentive date, the man who probably rarely heard the word no, and the lover. Oh yes, the lover. A man so practiced and skilled that she felt kissed even when she hadn't been. Moving on. Page 77. A long moment of silence ensued. Then Asher and Sawyer started laughing. "You're way too good for him," Sawyer said, which was the truest thing anyone could have said about Michael thought. She was pure at heart. What was she doing with a man who discarded women easily, even callously, who was willing to play hardball with vendors, and even worse with competitors? Felicity often gave her lovingly prepared candy away. "Don't be mean to him," Felicity said to her cousins, with her smile easy. "He has qualities that you're not aware of. See you boys. So long, Jace." Page 82 and 83. "So the women you date are forward." She wanted to know if this was the usual way of courting, or if he was doing anything different for her. He eyed her. "You're definitely from Red Rock." "Meaning what?" "You ask a lot of questions." "How else do you get answers?" You intuit, you assume, you guess." A hint of sarcasm coated his words. "And frequently be wrong." "So do you like being right? Do you?" he asked. "I wouldn't put it that way. I like being correct, but I don't need to be right. Does that make sense?" "It makes way too much sense. We all should take a lesson from you." He eyed her briefly. "Do you consider yourself adventurous? In what way?" "I think of starting a business adventurous, but maybe you're talking about zip-lining across a river filled with piranhas." "I would say no to the latter, thank you. Why?" He pointed ahead to the sign indicating they had arrived at the airport. She tried to imagine what he planned. "I didn't pack a bag, Michael," she said, curious and hesitant at the same time. "I don't carry my passport with me. We're not leaving the country, and we'll be back in time for that fried chicken dinner you promised me. Have you seen the San Antonio from a helicopter?" She shook her head. It was on the bucket list, not to see San Antonio necessarily, but to ride in a helicopter. She was so excited she could hardly sit still. She was yards ahead of him after they parked, having flung herself from the car, almost running ahead to the building. It was the best hour of her life. He was the perfect man. Except there was no such thing as perfect. So what was next? He was leaving in the morning. How could she discover his flaws if he left? Okay. We're moving on. Page 106. She never dated a man who planned before, who made decisions, who went out of his way to create memorable moments. Or was it more about control? He liked to be in charge, so maybe that's why he was good at planning, whether it was a takeover or a date. Page 117. Asher and Sawyer seemed to accept his answer, but Wyatt wouldn't leave it alone. "Sarah Jane would have my hide for telling you this, but I'm going to anyway. The first night you took Felicity out to Vines and Roses, well, when she got home she told Mary Jane that she'd met the man she was going to marry. So factor that into your plans," Wyatt said, not unkindly, "and consider how many pieces a heart breaks into when it's shattered. Some of those pieces never do get put back together." We're moving on. Page 123. "Just make sure she doesn't find out," Michael said, low and harsh. "She thinks her particular skills are what drew you here. Don't ever imply otherwise to her." "Hi, Morris," Felicity said, walking toward them, preventing Morris from responding. But Michael had his answer. His father was trying to interfere in his relationship with Felicity. No matter how many assurances he'd given the man that he wasn't leaving the company or the city. So his father was getting involved in their relationship. Ooh, red flags, right? Moving on. Page 125. I'll make things easier for you, Michael, she said, because you're obviously struggling. Wyatt told me he told you what Felicity said about wanting to marry you. I wondered if you would. Uh-huh. She came closer, looked right in his eyes. I was thinking I should tell Felicity that you know, to even the playing field, but you didn't? I haven't. Not yet. Why not? Because I asked her the other night if she still felt the same way, and now she says she didn't know. Page 126. Oh, I guess we'll read until 126. Sorry. Her words landed like a hard blow to his stomach. What had happened to change her mind? What had he done? I see that bothers you, she said in a kind of relieved satisfaction, although not triumph. In her voice and expression she was looking out for her friend, that's all. Michael not only approved, but he appreciated it. You're armed with information, and she isn't, Sarah Jane went on to say, because Felicity hasn't gotten to know you in a way I haven't. I have to trust that she's seen an admirable side to you. Therefore, I have chosen to believe that you are an ethical man, one who does the right thing. I'm counting on that. I can't guarantee that she won't get hurt, nor that he wouldn't. We all get hurt some of the time or other, as long as it's not intentional. She left him to fill in the blank. She's not like anyone I've ever met, he said. Different can be fun for short term. The shop bell rang, indicating someone was arriving. Saved by the bell, Sarah Jane murmured. Page 128. Michael kept walking until he reached the desk. He leaned on his fist, looming over his father. Stay out of my personal life or I will quit. I don't know, cut the crap. You sent more Sheffield to try to underrail my relationship with Felicity, and he hasn't been successful, by the way. I did no such thing. Gives you a little hint of what's going on in the book and makes you want to read it. That's my whole point of doing these book reviews. And besides my nose scratching, I don't know what's with that. I hope whatever it is, it's good news. I don't need any more bad news. Okay, page 161. Here's what I know, he said. I'll stay with you always. I'll always be faithful to you. If we have children, I'll be a better father than my father was. I'll hold you in esteem, respect you, listen to you. But love? To me, it's a myth. It's better to have a good friendship and passion, and that's what we have. That's what lasts. She couldn't believe her ears. She stood, wrapped in her robe. Her blood ran cold. That's not enough for me, Michael. So I'm not going to hold you to this marriage. More importantly, I don't want to be held to this marriage, and I want forever, but I want to be loved as much as I love. We'll get an annulment. Heck, maybe the marriage isn't even legal. That was page 161. We're moving faster than I thought. Page 177. Shh, I know it sounds horrible, and it was at the time, but sweetheart, I couldn't, and don't blame him. I allowed it to happen. I was the one in love and not him. He needed me. I came into his life at the exact moment. He needed someone to lean on, and I provided that, but he never loved me, never said the words, never saw me as a potential mother to his sons. I was a flight attendant who had an affair with someone I met on a plane. I don't think that he trusted that I wasn't doing that or worse on a regular basis. That's the aunt telling the niece that she was always over-romanticizing her relationship, that she always knew that her aunt had this romantic relationship with this gentleman, and she always longed for that kind of romance in her life. And come to find out, it was just one of those things where there was really no kind of romance like that for her aunt. Page 178. Why have I been thinking he was the love of your life? You got that romantic notion in your head, and I never told you otherwise. I met other men, dated a lot, but never fell in love again. Men fell in love with you. I met a couple of them. Sometimes it only takes one experience to ruin you for life. All in all, I've been happily independent. Okay. Page 183. I didn't mean it like that. You're taking it, Felicity. He reached for her and she turned away and took off. He caught up to her in a hurry. I like that it hasn't been easy with you and that you've challenged me, that you wouldn't let me run the relationship. I've been learning to compromise. All I'm asking is that you compromise with me on this one issue. She stopped in her tracks. You think this is an issue? This is my life. And mine, he pounded his chest. Ours. I married you because I wanted to. I want to stay married. I need you to give us a chance. She didn't say anything, which he took as a good thing. Let's start over, he said. He wanted to touch her, but he was pretty sure she would rebuff him. We can spend time together, learn more about each other, do things differently. You've always struck me as a fair person who gives second chances. Before you turn your back completely, will you give me one more try? Felicity stared at the ground as his words settled over her. He was right. She wasn't one to give up unless she saw no hope. Was there hope? She made a vow, but so had he. And his was a lie. He promised to love and he didn't. Page 187. Well, that's what I'm doing. And just for the record, Wyatt, you don't like being compared to your father either. Who knows? Maybe we're all like our parents, whether we like it or not. But one thing we all seem to have in common is that we don't give up. I like that part. Next paperclip. Okay. Page 200. Why do words matter that much? He asked. They just do. She had heard other women complain now and then that their husbands never said the words and how much that hurt them. Liz had gotten swept into a relationship, believed she loved, then learned not only was she not loved, but also expendable and replaceable, because he'd never told her that he loved her. He figured he hadn't played her false. Wasn't it strange that what people considered wasn't a lie? No matter what promises Michael made about never leaving her, if he didn't love her, why would he stay? Why would she want him to? Why would he be faithful? How could they be happy? Marriage was supposed to be a partnership. If only one person loved. I promise I'll never leave you, he said, as he had before. It's love that gets couples through the trying times that everyone faces, Michael. Love, and a husband and a wife who love each other and show their children every day in every way what they should be seeking for themselves in a marriage. Did your parents do that? Mine did. That's my example. That's what I want for myself. She was quiet for a moment, then added, maybe you want what your parents had. I don't want to be like my father in any way. Why not? She asked quietly, and she was surprised. You don't admire him? I admire what he's done creating a business from just blood, sweat, and tears, keeping it a success for all those years. But my parents aren't like yours. If they love each other, they'd have show it in public. It was an example. His jaw twitched. You said it before that you love me. Do you still? Let me ask you this instead. Are you glad that I'm in love with you? Are you glad that I told you? Does it make a difference? She couldn't read his expression, and suddenly her head began to throb. You are in pain, he said, climbing out of bed, heading for the bathroom. You need to rest, Felicity. We'll talk more in the morning. And the last paper clip. Everybody's going, oh, thank goodness. Page 217. I figured it out, Michael. I came to realize that words don't matter. Action does. I figured it out too, he said, stroking her hair. It wasn't that I didn't believe in love, but until I met you, I didn't understand it. Love isn't one thing, it's everything. It can't be separated from all of the elements that make a relationship work. It can't be on its own. That's why I didn't get it. I thought it was something that's separate. And I felt the opposite, she said. I thought one thing was more important than the other. It's not. You're right. It's not its own thing. It's part of something larger. Well, you look at us, a couple modern-day philosophers. Smiling, he put his hand over his mouth and said, I love you, Mrs. Fortune, and I'd like to see the world through your eyes. 2 pairs of rose-colored glasses coming right up. Michael smiled at her enthusiasm. Now your life will really begin, all because of a quaint little town called Red Rock. Aww. Okay, so what does this amazing book get that you need to read for your own romantic Valentine's Day? Because, yes, it does say it's on Valentine's Day right there. It gets a 20. That's how good this book was. And it was amazingly cute and wonderfully just one of those romances that you could see on Hallmark, but they would probably take some of the romance scenes out, no doubt. But they could totally do this on Hallmark, just saying. Good book, must read, 20. Next, I'm going to sing one song before I go work out.